As a young boy, I absolutely loved trains, and I'm so happy now that we have trains in Total War Warhammer. The train engines themselves, as a unit, are very much like a half-price discount steam tank. A Samurai Warrior is going to be taking one of them against Great Book of Grudges Skaven. Let's get to the builds here real quick. Of course, we've got Sorcerer Prophet of Fire up in the sky. In general, fire is going to be very good. Just straight up Lore of Fire on a flying caster. It's quite nice to have. Of course, we've also got the Demon Train here, the Iron Demon. This is the only one you should be using in multiplayer at the moment. It does have suppression on its little forward firing. I think they're like little flame cannon attacks. Anyway, front line of Hobgoblin Cutthroats. These are the Sword and Shield ones. Got the Blazing Beards of Bazarak or whatever. The Infernal Ironsworn ROR, the Immortals. Of course, dual hand weapons gives them anti-infantry and massive weapon strength. So, very cool there. And we've also got the Granite Guard here, the Chaos Dwarf Blunderbusses that have great weapons. They've got no shield. But, yeah, kind of like your Quarrelers with great weapons, but an ROR version. Also have suppression on their shots, looking absolutely spectacular. And then Death Shrieker Rocket. This is the one that inspired me to try the Death Shrieker against artillery. We're going to see it used in a little bit to go after this Plague Claw Catapult, Magma Cannon as well, and one Bull Centaur Great Weapon on the side for Rat Ogre duty. Speaking of which, we've got a couple of those, some Warp Grinders. Then in the front, Clan Rats with shields, Warlock Master, Rattling Guns, and Jezzails both, along with a Mortar. So a nice mix of weapons teams. Choo-Choo is going to be kited out here on this left side by some Night Runners, as the rockets do actually land some shots there. Looks like it's going to pull back safety of those Cutthroats. Nice, ooh, going over that Zinchian Spire there. Got a nice brass orb on those Blunderbusses, and the Rattling Guns are able to pretty quickly see back those Cutthroats. If they could get a firing line to open up on those Infernal Ironsworn right now, that would be absolutely fantastic. But instead, we're going to get a nice little rear charge from the Choo-Choo. Oh, yes, that sound effect. I love trains. So fantastic. Anyway, yeah, but the armor-piercing shooting of the Skaven, of course, going to be very dangerous, so very wise for the Choo-Choo to just pursue, rather than try and stay in this blob and tear out away those Clan Rats. The Infernal Ironsworn will definitely deal with them, no problem, but Warlock Master gets caught out in the back line, despite the damage being done to the Granite Guard, which is significant. He's dropping all kinds of AoEs all over him. He's also taking significant damage in return. But the flank attack here, Great Book of Grudges doing a great job just shutting down almost all the goblins with his Clan Rats, Wolf Rats, and in general, the Blazing Beards even taking significant damage. But you can see the Magma Cannon and the Death Shrieker Rocket are both trading into the Plague Claw Catapult. The Magma Cannon will fire and leave like a little fire on the ground, which is where the damage over time effect comes from, and this is why it's probably overperforming, is that specific effect right there, probably a little bit too strong. But a couple of artillery shots on the Rattling Guns, and they're seen off. We check back in over on the far side. It looks like those Night Runners did manage to rout Cutthroats. Not a surprise, but has tied up quite a bit of value in the meantime. Iron Demon also manages to squeak away here, not taking too much damage from those Jezzails. Sorcerer Prophet is going after the Warlock Master here, so let's get in close and watch that. Nice direct hit on the Death Shrieker Rocket there. No Warp Lightning Cannons, so they're not really artillery meant for shooting at other artillery or large targets, but still. Nice Cleansing Ruin here is going to do a substantial amount of damage to the Great Weapon Renders. Clan Rats also trying to contribute, just throw in some extra numbers here, but they still have enough contact. And Feebling Foe also being cast by the Lamasu. I didn't realize, yeah, this guy's actually riding on the Lamasu, which means doesn't have armor-piercing damage in melee, but does pick up magic damage, pretty decent melee defense, and that couple of bound spells, Withering and Enfeebling Foe. So we see that used to pretty good effect there. The Bull Centaurs, though, still take a huge amount of damage, and that's what I'm talking about when in previous replays I mentioned the weakness of the Bull Centaurs. I mean, they still end up paying for themselves due to that good engagement, but you can see how they can pretty easily get overwhelmed by just large numbers of stuff, especially like hordes of low-tier infantry, due to the fact their melee defense is not all that high, their armor is not all that high. it can take significant damage very quickly, and here they're going to face the wrath of a million cuts of Skaven, and they'll also be able to finish off that magma cannon. So now we see the Death Shrieker being used against Skaven artillery, and this is the moment that ended up inspiring me to try it out against Cathay, and I think it'll probably be effective even after they nerf magma cannon, which I do expect will happen at some point. See the Blazing Beards take a couple of shots there. I do think that the Death Shrieker will be a fairly effective counterfire option. You can see direct hit there on that Skaven artillery, blows it up no problem. So it's pretty interesting. Been a nice back and forth battle. If we check back in with Choo Choo, it's still live for the time being, but has been taking damage from these Death Runners. Don't have a ton of AP, but certainly enough ammunition left to finish this thing off. And has it ended up paying for itself? We'll have to check after the battle because it just blew up there. But anyway, Infernal Ironsworn are keeping up their rampage. Immortals finishing off those Jezzails, and it looks like broadly army losses kicking in for the Skaven. There it is. Pretty nice battle back and forth, honestly. Some good plays on both sides, but ultimately the Death Shrieker finishing off the Plague Claws there, and just in general the Skaven's poor leadership against something like the Lamasu. They were going to have a pretty tough time. Mortals also had a decent amount of models left. It got quite a bit of value. I'm surprised. I'll have to look at their speed. I think obviously the best thing is just going to be to try and slow them down and shoot them to death or magic them to death. The Blazing Beards suffered somewhat of that fate, and pretty surprised despite how much damage the Granite Guard took. They still also output enough damage to pretty much pay for themselves. Same can be said of the Bull Centaur renders, but definitely an interesting matchup. I do think that the Skaven probably have some of the best tools to take on Chaos Dwarfs if I kind of theory craft things. I haven't played this matchup myself yet, and you know, it's probably going to take quite a bit of research into the matchup to really figure it out, but on paper at least, it seems like the Skaven have quite a bit of really nice tools here. Good mobility, great numbers to just overwhelm the Chaos Dwarfs, and I mean, I guess Chaos Dwarfs in return could also go in the numbers route, but I feel like kind of playing into the Skaven's hands to a degree. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. It's definitely an interesting matchup. Quite a few of the land battle matchups for Chaos Dwarfs seem very dynamic and interesting to me, at least on the face of it, so definitely looking forward to exploring them more in the future. I almost forgot my Choo Choo boy. Didn't quite pay for himself, but I mean, tactically the Terror was definitely nice to have at certain points. Given this thing is not that expensive, I don't think it'll be crazy hard for it to pay for itself, but it seems to be in a similar boat as the Doom Wheel, actually. Kind of a funny comparison given these two. Similar price to a Doom Wheel and probably similar performance, though the fact that it is unbreakable means that it will fight until the bitter end, which is quite nice. The Death Shrieker and the Magma Cannon also got some pretty good value back. The Death Shrieker obviously was a less priority target, but did end up surviving there until the late game, was quite useful, as we saw. So yeah, very interesting, very fun matchup. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe. I've got tons more Chaos Dwarf content coming very soon, along with a little bit of other stuff as well. So be sure to stay tuned for all that. Be sure to ring that bell, like it, share it, all that stuff. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.